thank you to the sponsors. And as someone who has run for office 5 times in New York, 4 of them for county positions, I very much appreciate the fact that the sponsors who are here tonight help support the candidates and make this kind of thing possible. I want to thank the chair and the committee for having me here. And I also want to pay special attention to what I thought was really an outstanding color guard, the color guard team, as well as the flag folding team. And apparently, these guys were the reigning champions of the Florida State drill competition, the Air Force Junior ROTC unit at Sandalwood High School. Fantastic. All right. So here I am in Duval County, didn't do it right that time, at one of the most important times in our history. You know, we came out of 8 years of Barack Obama, an administration riddled with corruption, a feckless foreign policy. They were corrupt, a corrupt Department of Justice and FBI who tried to drag a woman who was a criminal across the presidential finish line. Fortunately for us, it didn't work. Fortunately for us, Donald Trump became the president. But they knew, once it was clear that he was the winner and in the Oval Office, they had no choice but to try to disenfranchise all of us and to overturn our election of this outsider president. And you know, he came to us at just the time we needed him most, with his tough talk, his unvarnished perspective, and a reality that was so close to our own, in spite of the fact that he was a New York City billionaire. He was someone who spoke to the heart of America. And the forgotten men and women in this country came out in droves. Some of them who had never voted before because they were working 2 and 3 jobs to try to pay the mortgage and pay the rent. But here we are at a very similar time. Here we are where the state of Florida is not unlike the nation. You know, in 2016, but for Hillary Clinton's rigging the DNC, Bernie Sanders, an admitted socialist, would have run for president of the United States. And now, across the country, there are socialists who are being elected at local levels all over. In New York, a young socialist supported by the Democratic Socialists of America has taken down one of the most powerful congressmen, Joe Crowley, a Democrat from Queens County in New York. They are running all over. And in this state, you've got someone who is also an avowed socialist who wants to bring socialism to the state of Florida. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can't afford it. We can't afford it. And we cannot afford people taking our capitalist society and system away from us. You know, it was Margaret Thatcher who first said, you know, socialism is great until you run out of other people's money. And that's what they're doing. You know, right now, Ron DeSantis is in a supposedly tight race with Gillum. And I want to compare the two of them to you. Gillum is anti-law enforcement. Imagine. But you don't have to imagine for too long. Because all of a sudden, law and order is a bad thing. All of a sudden, the flag of the United States doesn't deserve the reverence that all of us showed it tonight. All of a sudden, police are the enemy. And according to this guy, Gillum, he actually said that he supports the Dream Defenders, and he promised to support their manifesto, quote, denouncing law enforcement as racist slave catchers. Slave catchers. That police and prisons have no place in the justice system. I got to tell you guys, you're in a very dangerous place. Now, I shouldn't have to tell you about what victimization is about. Fortunately, none of us have been the victim of a crime. But I'm here to tell you that crime victims understand more than anyone the importance of the law, the police, and prisons, God forbid, if and when we need them. I'm here to tell you that after 3 decades in law enforcement, there are those people who decide that they're going to turn you into a victim without giving it a second thought. And all of a sudden, we are so concerned with the criminals. We are so concerned with those people who violate the law and our peace, our privacy, and security that we want to get rid of the police. They are the only line between a civilized and a barbaric society. And I'm not even talking about ICE. This guy wants to get rid of ICE. I don't know about you, but I don't know what's going on in this country. What I do know is there's a puppeteer. And this puppeteer was very visible during the Kavanaugh hearings, where all of a sudden up was down and down was up, and the Constitution didn't matter. Think about a United States senator, the most exclusive club and the most powerful club in the United States of America. Imagine the height you're at when you get to join that club. This woman comes out and says, all women need to be believed, and you men shut up. All of a sudden, this woman, whoever she is, 30 years earlier, was nowhere to be found, but now that there's a hashtag, Women Me Too, women need to be believed, all of a sudden she wants to be the hero. And the facts be damned. I started the first domestic violence unit in the nation in 1978 as a young prosecutor. I'm not looking for applause, and I thank you, but I want you to know from whence I come. I believe women. I believe that very often they are the silent victims of crime. And that's why I started my crusade on behalf of women and children. But I do not believe all women. None of us do. And I do not believe all men. That's absurd. The concept is absurd. But what's even crazier is when they start to say that there is no such thing as a presumption of innocence, that the accused has the burden to prove he didn't do it, that there is no burden on her to prove he did it. What country are we in? And if you looked at the signs, the puppeteer was involved. The signs were the same. They were well made, whether they were in California, New York City, or Washington. And as our president said, they were not made in the basement with love. These signs were made by one organization. They were absolutely the same everywhere. The effort to take down our capitalist system is a real effort. And whether it's George Soros and his people, or people who just hate who we are. Our lives will change if we lose the 2018 election. They will try to impeach the president. They will try to impeach Kavanaugh. They will change the education as much as they can, the education system, and all of the norms of our society. You know, when he came along, all of us who believed in religion were grateful that we could again be proud of our Judeo-Christian foundation. They want to get rid of that. They want to shame you. They don't think in God we trust belongs anywhere. The Constitution be damned. And for those people like Gillum, who wants to make Florida a sanctuary state, I got news for you. This guy knows nothing about crime. He knows nothing about protecting you, because the last 4 years in Tallahassee, they had the highest crime rate in the state for 4 years running. And last year, the highest number of murders in the city's history. What does that tell you about Gillum? This is a guy who puts the rights of illegal criminals above American citizens. And let me explain that. If Florida is made a sanctuary state, each and every one of you will be rubbing elbows with criminal illegals who believe that they have the right to live amongst you and are free from any kind of consequence if they violate the law, because that's what they tell them. You can ask Kate Steinle's family. You can ask Molly Tippett's family. You cannot afford this. If ICE comes in with a detainer and wants to make an arrest, this guy Gillum, by making this a sanctuary state, is not going to let that happen. And you know, some people don't understand. Sanctuary is kind of like a benign-sounding, medieval concept where, you know, they ran into the churches and the priests protect them and the crusades and all that. This is the illegal criminal. And right now, I'm going to talk about this on my show this weekend, they are releasing the illegal criminals from jails because there has been an order and there is no room for them. So count them among those who are free to roam amongst American citizens. So my message to you is really a very simple one. I believe in Donald Trump, and I believe in Ron DeSantis. I know Ron DeSantis, and I know Donald Trump. You know, Ron was a decorated Navy veteran. He served in Iraq. He was a federal prosecutor. He opposes sanctuary cities. He believes in all the things that you and I believe in. But most importantly, he is a man whom I have seen over the past 2-3 years work day and night. I have seen him in Washington at the tip of the spear as it relates to what happened in the corrupt administration before this one, with the emails and the text messages and the FISA warrants and the hearings. And make no mistake, the Department of Justice and the FBI was corrupted by this administration and those at the upper echelon because they wanted Hillary Clinton to win. And when she didn't win, they decided they needed to frame Donald Trump. And that's what my book is about. And I understand that when each of you leaves, you're going to get a copy of it. And here's the thing, if you don't call me up, because I signed 450 copies a couple hours ago. More than anything, though, you need to get out. You need to get your friends out. You need to be able to get young people out, millennials, people in senior homes, people who are millennials. You need to get them out. Because if you want to continue with a 4.2% GDP, with an unemployment 3.9%, with more jobs than people to fill them, if you want ISIS caliphate to continue to be defeated in the Middle East, consumer confidence higher than it's been in decades, animal spirits in the economy buzzing, deregulation giving us the ability to be able to continue to create and build our own small businesses, if this is what you want in the future, along with a rebuilt military with $700 billion that Donald Trump put in the budget, then you have got to continue to go forward with the Republican conservative agenda. You know, I was reading this palm card, Frederick Douglass, Republicans. And on the back, it talks about free speech and how the fact that free speech was the one right that our founding fathers believed was more important than any other. I want you to think about what's been going on in this country. Number one, Milo Yiannopoulos, 2 years ago, was going to Berkeley, which is the creator, the birthplace of free speech on a university campus. He goes there, and they come out dressed in their ninja outfits, the Antifa hooded, and for 12 hours they protest. They call it a protest. It was a riot. They tried to burn down Berkeley. They had crowbars going after the university to destroy the doors, the windows, and the building itself. They stopped Milo Yiannopoulos from speaking at Berkeley, the birthplace, I'll repeat myself, of First Amendment free speech. And Ann Coulter and so many others. In my own personal scenario, I've gone to universities. I get my share of grief. But the most incredible thing for me, if you watch my show Justice, there's a segment called Street Justice, where I go out on the street and I ask people questions, and sometimes they answer them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're dumb, sometimes they're smart. I never know what I'm going to get. So I feel like, what's his name, Forrest Gump, in the box of chocolates? Anyway, I go near New York University campus, and I've got my Fox thing on my microphone. Everybody's cursing me out. And then what happens is someone says, get her out, get her out. So I'm talking to people, and these young kids start coming out and screaming in my face. So I'm with a producer, a bodyguard, a cameraman, and usually a fourth person when I go out on the street. Even that's not enough for my mother. But, so I'm out there, and they start cursing and yelling. And so I kind of walked down a little bit, and they started jumping up in front of the camera, screaming. I had to leave. They wouldn't allow me to ask a question. And this is what's happening in America today. And if the liberal, savage left is allowed to continue in this rampage of incivility that, in my mind, no doubt will end in more violence, then you're not going to see the America that you're used to. And it is the First Amendment that makes them, when they try to shut us down, the Nazis. They can call Donald Trump a Nazi. They can say we're Nazi sympathizers, we're deplorables, we're this, that, and the other thing. I got something to tell you. Nazis are people who allow only one way of thinking. If you disagree with that thinking, you're not allowed to say it. That is classic fascism, Nazism. These are people who are, in truth, fascists themselves. And so, what Frederick Douglass said is so prescient. From 1860, the plea for free speech, quote, "Liberty is meaningless where the right to utter one's thoughts and opinions has ceased to exist. That, of all rights, is the dread of tyrants. It is the right which they first of all strike down. They know its power." Think about that. Think about the people on the left who want to confront you and me in restaurants, in airports, and yell shame and scream at us. It's acceptable to them now. They are not embarrassed, they are proud. And where they can, they will continue to commit those acts and go well beyond it. You have it in your power to stop this craziness in 2018. And I would recommend that the one way to do it is with Rick Scott, who's running for United States Senate, Ron DeSantis, who works tirelessly at his job for governor. The one thing you don't need is more taxes, more restrictions, more illegals, and less money in your paychecks. And I guarantee you that's what you're going to get if the left is allowed to prosper in this fabulous state of Florida. I want to thank you all for having me tonight. I understand that the congressman is going to be here soon, Congressman DeSantis. I want you to please believe me when I say this election is even more important than 2016. This election is when they come out full hog and ready to fight and destroy everything that we have built, that our great president has built in the last 19, 21 months. And I also want you to think about, as a last thing, this Russia collusion nonsense. It's a bunch of baloney. But when they look to frame a president and they look to create a narrative in front of all of us of collusion, you and I don't have a chance. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless Duval County. Thank you.